Hello, this is Victor and welcome to my new video. This time I will do a video compare Grey Knight's strike squads versus the Terminator's squad. And I will use my Warhammer, my stats, to do the comparison mathematically speaking. In that video I wouldn't explain what are the mathematical calculations or statistical calculations that I'm using to do this comparison. If you want to know more on the detail of the comparison, please click at the box here in the video or at the link below, and then you will be addressed to another video where I explain how I do all these calculations. The purpose of this video is to compare the units that you see now in the screen. So I will compare 10 strikers Grey Knights with 6 harbors, 2 hammers and 2 sea cannons, the same with 2 silencers, the same with 2 incinerators, and then 5 Terminators with 1 sea cannon, 3 halberds and 2 hammers, and 5 Terminators with a silencer, 3 halberds and 2 hammers. And I will consider that one of the hammer is always on the sergeant or the justicar of the unit. So following the comparisons I always do, the first point I will compare is the mobility. In that case, both units have same mobility. The only difference is the Terminators are relentless, but they cannot pursue when they win in assault. So yeah, Terminators have a little bit more advantage because they are relentless and move and shoot. I will take this into consideration when I calculate the shooting capability of each unit. Now I'm going to do the comparison in shooting to infantry. I divide the infantry in 4 blocks: light infantry, heavy infantry, monsters and flying monsters. If you want to know more the details, click at the link below where I explain more on the detail what I consider in each block. So, but here what is interesting to see is for the cost of points, the strike squads are more efficient in shooting, even when they have to move and shoot. And you can see that in the case of the sea cannons and the silencers, I consider the stationary case and I consider the moving case. Even when they are moving, they are better in shooting than the Terminators for the cost of points. So this means that if we are looking for a shooting unit, normally strike squads should be slightly more efficient than Terminators, with the different choices. Of course, as was expected, incinerators are very good against infantry and at short range, but sea cannons are quite good at medium range as well as the silencers. So, and then when I'm shooting to monsters, I consider the silencer is activating force to make a more fair comparison, because I guess when you want to use silencer against monsters, you will activate the force weapon before shooting. So this is a comparison. We'll say that it's not big difference, but the strike squads are slightly better than the Terminators in shooting. Then if we look at shooting at vehicles, we see that Terminators are, especially with sea cannons, are at the same level as the strike squads, or even better. Why? Against infantry, the stone bolters are still effective, and then the strike squads have more stone bolters for the cost of points. But when we go to vehicles, the stone bolters have not any efficiency, and only the heavy weapons are the ones that are giving the difference. This is the reason why against vehicles, the Terminators are better than the strike squads, and the only exception is the sea cannons if they remain stationary. Against flyers, as everybody has to do snapshots, then the strike squads are not penalized for moving and shooting, and this is why strike squads are going to be better shooting at flyers than the Terminators. If we look the overall punctuation, this is the average of all the cells that you have seen before. We see that the strike squad with 2 sea cannons are the better choice for shooting. Then is followed, especially when it remains stationary. But even if we look in moving, they have the same punctuation as the Terminators. So as average, we can consider, for example, if we consider that half of the turns is moving and half of the turns is stationary, we will see that the average is going to be 0.50. Is going to be even high. Is going to be higher than the average of the Terminators. The same is happening with the silencer. So the silencer is more efficient on strike squads, even when moving, than on Terminators. Because we have also to add here all the stone bolters that you have for the same cost of points. So we have to take all this into account. So strike squads as average are better in shooting than Terminators for the cost of points that you are paying. If we do then compare to another units that I calculate, so if we look 10 Chaos Space Marine with 2 plasma guns, the point is 0.60, and if we look at 10 Space Marines with flammers, the point is 0.50. So normally the strike squad are at the same level of these units. Now let's look at the resistance, and here is where, for the same cost of points, Terminators are more resistant than the strike squads. So if you can see here, and we have to take into account that they calculate the resistance at open field. So if we start to take into account covers, this difference will decrease in some cases. But as average, Terminators are going to resist more for the cost of points that you are paying for. So if you expect to have a lot of fire in return, Terminators are going to resist better than strike squads. If we then compare with the Chaos Space Marines, we see that Chaos Space Marines have much better punctuation in resistance. The reason why is because they are much cheaper than these units. So losing one Space Marine is not as drastically, or is not as expensive as losing one Terminator, a Grey Knight Terminator. This is the reason why you can lose. So what this meaning is that for the same cost of points, if you pay 100 points on Space Marines, on Chaos Space Marines, and 100 points on Terminators, you will resist more with Space Marines. This is just a virtual number, but it's helping to compare and averaging to the same cost points. This is why I like to normalize to see if really we are paying or the points we're paying are reflected in the stats. But where I think that the Grey Knights excel is in the close combat, and especially the Terminators. As you see here, Terminators are much more stronger in close combat than the strike squads. There is two reasons. For the same cost of points, they hit harder, and they receive less damage in return in close combat. So they make them much more efficient in close combat. If you are planning to go to close combat, Terminators are by far the best choice you can do. And same is happening when you look assaulting to vehicles. And here, Dreadnoughts are in the previous part. I consider Dreadnoughts close combat. And here I only consider assaulting vehicles that don't have weapon skill. So in that case, also we'll see that Terminators will eliminate more hull points for 100 points than the strike squads. Both squads both units are very dreadful against vehicles, especially if you activate Hammer Hand and you use halberds. So in that case, I always consider that you activate Hammer Hand before assaulting, also in the close combat. So here you see that, and they are much more stronger than the previous units that I compared that was the Chaos Space Marines. So these are going to be one of the strongest units, especially assaulting light vehicles. Always we have to keep in mind that when assaulting, armor 10, 11 and 12 are the normal armors at the back of most of the vehicles, and are not a lot of vehicles with armor 14 at the back. So we have to take into account that the first column is the most used when you assaulting vehicles. So as a conclusion, we'll say that Terminators are better choice than strike squads for the Grey Knights. They are better in close combat. They are more resistant, but they're slightly lower at shooting. But the difference in shooting is not that big to justify all the other benefits. So I will say Terminators are the best choice, and I will consider them to use as a very short range, where they can assault. So where you use the shooting, and then in assault you assault to eliminate completely the enemy unit. But there are some watchouts. Terminators are going to be tough to deal with by these units. These units most of the time will lose if they assault Terminators. Other units like cannot take raise from neckbones. Units that have 3+ invulnerable save or 2+ invulnerable saves and can do a lot of hitting, a lot of attacks. They are also dangerous for Grey Knights, because if you start losing, because you lose all the efficiency that are the power weapons in that cases. So I will, so they are very good at short range, shooting and assaulting, but you have to be careful with invulnerable save and with the Terminators. And it's all what I want to share in the video. I hope you have found it useful and entertaining. Please leave your comments, opinions, what do you think below. Like if you like it, subscribe if you're not subscribed. And thanks a lot for watching, and see you again later. Bye.